And hello everyone, and welcome to this first ever inaugural episode of Star Trek Sunday with me, your host, Stu Jackson, aka Stooge Action. So today, first thing I've got to say, of course, is Happy Valentine's Day to all the couples and the singles out there. Remember, it's okay to not have someone at this time. These are weird times that we're living in. For single people, it's a good time. I'm not single. However, I have not seen Mayim Zadi for quite some time, since the beginning of December, due to us isolating and what have you. So my thoughts are with my lovely, gorgeous Catherine, my girlfriend. But my thoughts, as ever, are also about Star Trek, as they often are. So today, what I thought we'd talk about is, with it being the first episode, I thought we would talk about what it is that got us into Star Trek in the first place. Was it perhaps, sharing a special moment with a parent who liked watching it? Was it amongst friends at school? Was it later in life that you became a Trekkie? I do want to hear your stories. I'll be sharing my personal introduction to Star Trek a bit later on in the show. And I also thought, as it's the first episode, it would be a good idea to do a review of the first ever episode. Now, most people are going to instantly think, he's talking about The Cage, the pilot episode. No, I'm not. That was the first ever episode made. It's absolutely true. But it wasn't designed to be ever to be aired. So back in the 60s, the way TV shows would run is you would make a pilot episode that you didn't ever plan to air. It would be made on quite a tight budget, because it obviously cost a lot of money to make these things. So you'd do it kind of on a shoestring. You'd maybe not use the same cast that you would be intending to use later on or anything like that, and it would be kind of a way of you'd get through the pitching process first. The studio would have to be interested in what you're doing. But once you got through that, then you would make this pilot to present your vision. This would then give the studio an opportunity to give their feedback, to say, no, these are the things that we want changing, and you can bet your bottom dollar there would always be things they wanted to change. And then you would make a second pilot that you would intend to air. Now, things changed over time. So, when you get to the the 80s and 90s, then the first pilot that you make was planned to be aired, as was the case with The Next Generation. But back with the original series, The Cage, no, it was never planned to be aired. The pilot that was planned to be aired is Where No Man Has Gone Before, which is obviously a classic episode that we're very familiar with, I would hope. Those of us who do watch the original series. But Where No Man Has Gone Before was actually broadcast. So here in the UK, it was the first ever episode broadcast in 1969. However, in fact, it wasn't even in the US that Star Trek was first broadcast. It was actually in Canada on the 6th of September that the first ever episode was broadcast. And they broadcast The Man Trap. So that's the episode I'm going to talk about today. Hopefully, I know a couple of friends knew I was going to be talking about the first ever episode, so hopefully that's a little bit of a surprise. Let me know in the chat what you think. But yeah, The Man Trap. So The Man Trap was the 6th episode to be filmed. and this was quite a clever way of doing things, really. Back at the time, episodes had to be wrapped up neatly at the end. You couldn't really have series arcs because obviously this was the days before video recorders, before streaming, before Sky Plus or TiVo or anything like that. So if you missed an episode, you missed it. And that's it. You couldn't even go on to message forums on the internet because the internet did exist, but it wasn't in every home like it is now. So if you missed an episode, it was just gone. So you couldn't really have series arcs the way you could, certainly the way you can now. There's one or two. It's even shows like The Fugitive, which I suppose did have an overall arc. They were still sort of, everything was wrapped up neatly at the end, and that was to go on for quite some time, of course. Series arcs were only a big one. Interesting question. So in the pilot, I'm assuming you're talking about the cage there. No, it was actually filmed in black and white. It wasn't that they wore grey. So hello, Paul. Nice for you to join us. Tea Party Fox there, who comes along to a lot of our streams. So it's nice to see you here. Oh, I'm using my Star Trek mug today, by the way. There's a little bit of a story to this. This used to be one of these where you'd see the figures nice and clear, and then you put hot liquid in, and they would disappear. So over time, this cup, I can tell you, I have had this cup for 30 years this year. It was an 18th birthday present from my sister. And still going strong. Avid fan, quite right too, as we all are and as we all should be. So yes, brilliant. Yes, so this is why they were able to use the mantra, like I say, sixth one that they'd written. And there was some, even a couple of weeks before broadcast, they were still arguing about which episode they should use initially. Now, by using the 6th episode that they filmed, it gave them the opportunity to use one where the actors had gotten familiar with their characters. They'd gotten a bit of a handle on them. So as we as the audience are introduced to them, they already know what they're doing. They already know who it is they're presenting. Because it does take a while. And I can... hey, Ed! Sorry, hey Usher, I was so sorry. Ed's incoming. It'll be great to see Ed soon. But Usher, B Daddy, great to see you. Yes, be happy indeed. Yes. So by presenting this, like I say, this 6th one that was recorded, we get to see characters that are more fleshed out, more formed, that the actors are more familiar with. So it's quite a clever thing to do. It's not an uncommon thing to do back then. Obviously we couldn't do it now because of your story arcs. Every episode has to be planned out well in advance, exactly which order you're going to do them in. But for then, I think that there was a big argument that they should have used Where No Man Has Gone Before. And just as a side note, hey Ed, hey. So first annual meeting of the Elin Ralph fan club. It is indeed. So for anybody who might not be familiar, myself, Usher, who is B Daddy, and Ed, Firelock22 there, we, along with a couple more people, Matt and Amy, we play every second Wednesday Star Trek Adventures, the role-playing game. We do it live here on Twitch, so do add me to your favourites if you want to see that. We do it every second Wednesday at 9:30 p.m. GMT. We've only just started playing. We're only 2 episodes in, and you can catch up with those either on the stream or via YouTube. I think they'll should be a link somewhere, but if not, I'll sort one out. And hey, Kat. So Kat, here. I believe it was Kat who suggested I should do a Star Trek stream. So thank you very, very much. Here we are. This is all your fault. So hello, Kat. Yes. So the Man Trap tells the story of the Enterprise. And one thing I was going to say very quickly about where No Man has gone before. There are notable characters missing because that was the first 4-air pilot. I think you did. I think you did, Kat. But if not, somebody did. So thank you. Yeah, so it was. So you've got characters like Sulu, Uhura, are actively missing. I think I need to rewatch it to be sure, but I think Dr. McCoy was missing as well from it. But of course they're all in the Man Trap, so we do get to meet these characters. And although 6 episodes in they'd started to get a bit of a handle on it, you still had a bit of a thing that there's, as an episode 1966, it might well have been you, Paul, and my sincere apologies if I am giving your thunder to someone else, or indeed if someone else takes the blame for it, depending on how this goes. So yeah, so I do apologise. It may well have been you. I if I don't write things down, I am terrible. My memory is appalling. So I do apologise. Yes. So Leonard Nimoy in particular hadn't really got a brilliant handle on who Spock was and this whole unemotional thing. It certainly, when you see the cage, there's one bit where they grab a leaf and he beams wildly, and oh, isn't this amazing, which obviously is a very un-Vulcan thing to do. But even in the Man Trap, 6 episodes in, there's one bit where he's fighting the sort of monster of the week, and he gets quite passionate, he gets quite angry. Now, you could argue he's half human, but they made such a big thing about him being... No, you can talk away in the chat, absolutely. It's what it's there for. We want engagement. We want, and I want to hear your stories about what got you into Star Trek in the first place, because we'll be talking about that in a bit. But for now on the Man Trap, so Spock gets quite passionate and angry and quick, it's going to kill the captain, but the whole half-human thing, they made such a big thing about Spock being unemotional or not showing emotions, as we later find out in later series. It's not that Vulcans don't have emotions, it's that they suppress them, or repress them, depending on your take on it. So the Man Trap is the one with it became a massive staple, even being used in the most recent Lower Decks episode, the Salt Vampire from M113. Yeah, that's fine. Well, there you go, Usher. So your introduction to Trek might be through us. There we go. Everyone's got a story. So we're familiar with, or many of us, Usher might not be, but many of us, of course, are familiar with the Salt Vampire. And this was the episode that it came in. Now, I say I'm going to do a review. This is going to be a fairly brief review. I've got to be honest. So the performances are, by today's standards, less than stellar. In fact, there was one early review that says about the outstanding acting from one William Shatner. So if he's the kind of the best out there in the episode, but you've got to look at these things in context, and it can be difficult for people, for modern audiences, to look back at these shows. And to look at them in context, because of course they didn't have CGI back then. The sets were sort of hand built. keeping the bar very low. Yes, indeed. Excuse me, having a slip. I'll put my cup down now. When they visited, but this was a physically hand built set. It cost them a huge amount of money for the time to do these things, and any props were physical props. There was very, very little in the way of sort of post production. It was very good for its time, Paul. You're absolutely right. But when you look at kind of the things that George Lucas has done with Star Wars and things like that, and the special effects that are out there, it does look dated, and there's no getting away from that. I rewatched The Man Trap in preparation for this. Yes, they were absolutely, the Carpenters were absolutely essential. But you do hear people dissing on it. So, oh, look at how cheesy it is, and oh, look, wobbly sets and all the rest of it. But yeah, you've really, context is everything with these things. So when I always liken it, if we could get in a time machine and go back to Shakespeare's day and see a Shakespeare play, and we see young men running about the stage in blonde straw wig pretending to be women, we go, oh, that's not very realistic. Well, of course, it's easy to put that into context. When it's only 50 years ago, it's maybe harder for people to put it into context because it's within living memory. But yeah, it's a thing. Anyway, so the acting is ropey in places. The continuity is absolutely appalling. So as a semi-professional, semi-amateur filmmaker myself, I'm quite keen on looking for continuity when they cut shots. Did they have the hand up in one scene and then the back down? When it cuts, that kind of thing. I mean, Game of Thrones has some appalling continuity, so that's not a it's not an old thing to do. It happens on some quite recent stuff, but yeah, there is some really glaring continuity errors in it. But you've got to look for the time, and a lot of these things, because of the low resolution of the shows and the poor quality of recording, actually a lot of details would get utterly missed. In fact, even watching the digitally remastered, which is it's hard to watch the original copies because you just can't find them if you don't have them on VHS. It's almost impossible to get hold of them now. So now really only the digitally remastered, they're the only ones I seem to be able to get hold of anyway. If anyone can point me in the direction of where I might find the older ones, it'd be quite interesting to watch. Probably much harder to watch, to be fair, but it would be quite interesting. So you have the Salt Vampire. Interestingly enough, you have the first use of the phasers stunning someone. Now, we're accustomed to stun, you fire, they fall down, they go unconscious. That's what stun means. Well, this didn't. In stunning them, in stunning the, what was it, Professor Crater is the one who's stunned. It just makes him a bit woozy and, I don't know, where am I? Oh, gosh, so he's still conscious with stun. So that was something that was retconned a little bit later on. And of course, you have your first case of someone beaming down to a planet and getting killed quite quickly. But they're not a red shirt. In fact, there's a couple of people killed, crewmen killed. Neither of them are red shirts. The first one is actually a blue shirt, a science officer. And pretty quickly he's going to get killed because of the ways he's acting. Kind of when you first see him, he's he's nonchalant and looking around, and he's clearly bored, and he goes on. He tries chatting up the professor's wife and what have you. Yes, it's. I don't know where you found that, but that sounds about right. 1.3 million per episode. It was a huge budget at the time for the show. One of the reasons why they used a lot of unknown actors at the time as well was to try and save and scrimp where they possibly could. But there you go. But it's worth a watch. The Man Trap. If only for the history of it. Like I say, the salt vampires become such a staple. I say it was in an episode of Lower Decks recently. Which, if you haven't seen that, watch Lower Decks. It's brilliant. I love it. And of course, in the hello, Marco Nolan. Lovely to see you. And yes, absolutely, recycling, reuse, recycle, that's the one. Whatever it is. Was it reuse, recycle, regurgitate? No, that can't be right. There's 3 re's anyway. But yes, absolutely. Anyway, with this S. So do go back and watch it. Star Trek Online. I mean, they do talk about this salt vampire being the last of its kind. And it's interesting that reduce, reuse, recycle. Thank you, Usher. It was there somewhere. So they talk about this salt vampire, but it's popped up so many times even in Star Trek Online. And spoiler alert for anyone sort of playing that, but there is a planet that's been infested by salt vampires, so not the last of its kind as claimed, but a really good episode and well worth a good watch. I mean, is there anything I'd love to... what I really want from this show is for it to be a two-way discourse. So if you've got any opinions about the episode The Man Trap, do share them. I do want to hear. Now, I said right at the beginning that I was going to talk about how we got into Star Trek in the first place. So I really, really want to hear your stories. And this is yes, Paul, absolutely. Everyone should be reducing, reusing, and recycling. He says with an actual piece of paper in his hand. But I do recycle where I possibly can. So I want to hear your stories about how you got into Star Trek. And I'm going to share mine with you whilst you're all hopefully hammering away on your keyboards to tell me through the chat. So I was think way back in the midst of time. Yes, BBC Two Tea Time back in the 80s. So I'm guessing then, Paul, Next Generation was your introduction to because BBC 2 6 p.m. Was when the Next Generation was being shown. But for me, it was actually Wednesday nights at 8 p.m. I was 5 years old. Oh, the original. Oh, so that was early 80s then. Fantastic. So for me, you go back to 1978 when I was 5 years old. It must have been a rerun because the original was originally shown from 1969 through to 72. So for the 80s, that must have been the third run of the original series. I didn't even know they did it in the 80s. There you go. But certainly, so 78, 5-year-old Stu His bedtime, being 5 years old, was 8 p.m. and 8 p.m. on BBC Two is when Star Trek was shown. Now, little Stu's dad was a bit of a Trekkie on the quiet, and rather than having to take the time to put little Stu to bed, because that takes time, and what kids are like, they're a pain in the backside for putting down overnight. You've got to to spend time. So rather than miss the beginning of one of his favourite shows, little Stu's dad allowed him to stay up and watch it. So of course, little Stu shows a lot of enthusiasm for Star Trek because, ooh, an hour, get to stay up an extra hour to watch this program. I mean, it was completely and utterly over my head, totally. But I sort of feigned this interest. Now, because I'd feigned this interest, bath and PJs before and straight to bed after. Absolutely. You. Do you know what, Ed? If you said that in a Yorkshire accent, that would be scary and terrifying. But I mean, like I said, totally over my head. But because I'd shown all this enthusiasm for my 6th birthday, there was a Levanto stripy PJs. Now, I can't remember. I know it was that brushed nylon, that horrible thing that creates massive amounts of static, as were my sheets as well on the bed. I do remember that. But yeah, I don't remember them being stripy or having love hearts on them. But yes, so January in 1979 at the cinema, of course, you have the motion picture, the original Star Trek movie that was rushed out in response to Star Wars, and because of all this enthusiasm little Stu's shown about Star Trek, that's his birthday present. Is, as a family, we go to see Star Trek the motion picture, and I was blown away. But it was still a little bit over my head, but I remember the special effects just absolutely. I just fell madly in love with it, and the design of the refit Enterprise and just everything about it. I pinpoint as the exact moment that I became a proper Trekkie. Is watching the motion picture for my 6th birthday, which means that I've been a Trekkie now for 42 years. Oh my goodness. Over 42 years now, of course. No, we're past January. So that's my Star Trek story. How about yourself? So yeah, Paul, BBC Two Tea Time. So tell us the story, Paul. I mean, was that how old were you? I mean, don't give us your age way if you don't want to, but was it something you'd sit with the entire family and watch? Is it something you'd disappear to your own room to watch? Was it what's the story behind it? And for the rest of you, I do want to hear your stories. We can dip in and out of those as we go. But now it's time. Oh, here we go, Ed. Star Trek 2, Wrath of Khan. Right, around an Easter time. Okay. Fantastic. I mean, Star Trek 2. I mean, that's an interesting story behind that movie in of itself. Written by a guy who had only ever seen a single episode of the original series, and then he goes away and writes that script. Of course, the episode was Space Seed with Khan, Noonien, Singh in it. But yeah, absolutely fantastic. And interestingly, at the beginning when he meets, Chekhov, comes on the plane. Well, Chekhov wasn't in the show at the time because it was I think it was first season episode, and of course Chekhov hadn't come on board. So I never forget a face, even ones I've not met yet. There we go. Yeah, so yeah, you make a okay, but so black and white. I mean, black and white's not a bad thing to watch the original series on. I've got to say, it's kind of what it was designed for, really. Because although it was put out in colour, I mean, Star Trek and Bewitched were, they were unusual in being put out in colour. Most people had black and whites at the time, and that was. That was what they were designed for, really, in many respects. So yeah, in the dining room, excellent. It's nice to have these memories to come back to, isn't it? And yes, Ed. So I think, yeah, I think. So when I look back as 6-year-old Stu, loving the motion picture. It was, I think I was just blown away by the special effects and everything. If I stick my film critic hat on and watch it, yeah, I mean the overuse of split diopters, which are absolutely insane. The drawn out story. I mean, it's literally you could get away with a half-hour episode. That'd do for the story of the motion picture, but yeah, yes, BBC Two Wednesday 6 p.m. next gen, absolutely. That was a key moment, I think, for a lot of people. Certainly, a lot of modern Trekkies, absolutely. Yeah, well, that's it. Especially when they're going round the ship and what have you. I mean, they're gloriously sent up in lower decks. In is it the penultimate episode or the one before? But yeah, I mean, if you haven't seen Lower Decks, go watch it. It's on Amazon Prime in the UK. Finally, it's taken so long for us to get it over here. I mean, we're so used to shows. It's out in America. Next day, it's in the UK. They took far too long with Lower Decks. I'm quite. Yeah, it is an indulgence, but what an amazing one. And it really, for me, that fly past cemented the ship as important a character in of itself as the crew, as any of the crew. The ship became a character at that moment rather than just a vessel and a device for carrying them round, which is kind of how with the original series you see it. So yeah. So shall we have some Star Trek news? I've got quite a bit of news to go through. In fact, and I ought to design a stinger if anyone wants to. Yes. Not only big, but look at all this detail with the special effects and because it was such a unique ship as well, that played a big. I mean, yeah, you couldn't have done that on the small screen because so much detail had been lost. Would have been lost on it. That the big screen was the perfect place to put in all that detail with the refit ship. Yes. Now I need a. I know it remains one of my favourites. The refit, definitely. So I need a bit of a stinger for Star Trek news. Star Trek news, that kind of thing. But I haven't got one, so I'll just tell you. Gonna do Star Trek news now. So for this inaugural episode of Star Trek News, I'm going to talk about what shows and movies are currently in development at the moment. And you have quite a few. So there's 3 different movies to talk about. 2, 3, and 6. Count them. 6 shows to talk about, which is absolutely incredible. So the first movie is the Star Trek 4. So this would be a direct continuation of the J.J. Abrams version, and this was a movie that it was teased would feature Kirk's father, so Chris Hemsworth, back into it. Of course, he's quite hot property at the moment, and he's quite a good box office draw. This particular film, so this is obviously Paramount owning the rights to this, has been plagued by lots of issues, not least of which Star Trek Beyond not doing very well in the box office. I mean, I say not doing very well. They only made 1.2 billion in profit. Which, I mean, damn it, all I want is 60 grand for my sitcom. But yeah, that's a whole other thing. Don't get me started on that, because it'll turn into a rant. Other issues that it was beset by, both Chris Pine and Chris Hemsworth pulled out of the project, and publicly. So that made it difficult. The last I've heard is the official line. Yes, mere pence. Yes, $1.2 billion is just pocket money. So officially, this movie is still on the table, and would be a time travel film featuring Kirk's father. But I have heard some reports that say it's sitting on the shelf, and it's not likely to be pulled down from it very soon. So, yeah. Oh, excuse me. So looking a bit unlikely on that one. Then we come to Quentin Tarantino's Star Trek. Again, Paramount looking into this. This proposal was seen kind of as a version of Pulp Fiction in space, where the Enterprise would visit a 1920s gangster planet. So, I mean, very much in the theme of the original series. You go to a planet. Oh, look, they've had a parallel evolution, and now it's like 1930s or 1940s. If the Nazis had won, and all that kind of thing. Which, to be honest, I mean, I like Quentin Tarantino movies. I don't think Grand Theft Auto Starship. Yes, I mean that's Star Trek 3 right there. Surely. I like Quentin Tarantino movies. I don't think Star Trek is the right vehicle for it. I don't think it's the right franchise for him. If I'm perfectly honest. It would be interesting to see what he did, but curious, I think it would go the wrong way, personally speaking. Now. But other news on that is that Tarantino himself has now pulled out. So, but Paramount are still thinking about moving forward with that particular project. So a Tarantino movie without Tarantino, going back to a 1960s style story when we are, as an audience, much more evolved. I think it would be a bit of a mistake. But Paramount possibly don't agree. Now, the third movie that's on the table with Paramount as well is one that's been pitched by Noah Hawley. Now, might not be Fallout versus Mad Max versus Star Trek. Do you know what? If it hasn't been done, at least in fan fiction, I'll be quite surprised. In fact, I very recently talk about versus Star Trek. I very recently read IDW's the comic book producers. They delivered a Transformers versus Star Trek collection, which I read. It was very, very entertaining. I'll probably talk about that in a future episode, though, so I won't go into too much detail here today. So Noah Hawley's Star Trek. Noah Hawley is the guy behind the series of Legion and Fargo. I don't know if you've seen much of them. I don't think they've done terribly well in the UK. Fargo, I think, did a bit better than Legion. I don't even know if you can watch Legion in the UK, but Legion is an X-Men, Marvel X-Men story about someone who has lots and lots of personalities in them. A bit like you get in Doom Patrol. I've forgotten the name of the character now. Fargo, I haven't seen either of them, I'll be honest, so I'll take your word for it. I have heard good things about Fargo, though, Paul. So yeah, but really gritty. Really, from what I understand about both Legion and Fargo, a lot of sort of mental health things being hidden, things being repressed. It sounds to me like Noah Hawley's career is based on basically therapy. It's his form of cathartic experience. Slow burning. Okay. Well, what I can tell you is that Noah Hawley wanted his own vision of the Star Trek franchise. So he wanted to sort of turn the tables a little bit, do something a bit different in his own vein. So again, I would imagine this would be some sort of psychological based mental health, hidden secrets thing. I've heard a rumor. So I've heard. Well, actually, before I get to rumours, I can tell you that Simon Pegg publicly said he had no idea whether or not he would be involved. Mad Max Morales 3. Like it. I like it. There's a fan film right there. Yeah, so Simon Pegg very publicly just, I have no idea if I'm going to be involved or not. So that, I mean, although, technically something might be on the table with someone like Paramount, if the cast don't know if they're going to be involved, then you've got to ask yourself how seriously it's been taken. And indeed, they've been very tight-lipped about what this story might be about. But the biggest rumour is that it was about some sort of galactic plague. Now, the rumour goes on to say that because of this, Paramount have put this on the back burner. They've basically shelved it for the time being because of the current pandemic situation. I mean, depending on how the story treats it, of course, I would say actually now's probably a good time to do a story like that. But I suppose sensitivity issues and what have you, you've got to consider that. But some breaking rumour, if you like, I have heard just this morning, so I prepared my notes well in advance. Breaking news that I have heard that it's probably cancelled now and taken off the table completely, but I do need to confirm that, so hopefully by next episode I'll have something concrete on that for you. So that's the three movies where they are at the moment. Nothing really happening, and the trouble is, with the current situation, the current pandemic, movies are not really a good option for production companies at the moment. You know, everybody's staying at home and streaming stuff, so that's where a lot more efforts are being put at the moment. Whether things change back after the pandemic, it's very, very difficult to say. So yeah, I know a lot of film companies are hedging their bets at the moment. So whether we get to see any more Star Trek movies is going to be a tricky one. But certainly, well, whether we get to see any more Star Trek movies formally, I have to say, because as ever, the fandom have. They're always knocking stuff out of the park, the fans, and there is quite a recent new fan film called First Frontier, Star Trek First Frontier, that goes back to the original Enterprise, and they are using the original version of the original Enterprise, so this set that's behind me on screen, and the original version, not the Discovery version of the original Enterprise, and it goes back to Captain April and the launch of the Enterprise, and it involves Captain April's wife, who is the chief medical officer on board. Now, this is proper canon stuff because the animated series talked at length about Commodore April, who was the original captain of the Enterprise before Christopher Pike. And there is mention in the animated series about his wife being the chief medical officer as well. And Commodore April is mentioned in... might not be Lower Decks. I think it's Discovery. Yes. Well, the cartoon series, I mean, yeah, the animated series is proper canon. Well, actually, that's going to be another topic for discussion in a future episode. Animated series canon. But there we go. But I strongly recommend, go to YouTube, search out First Frontier, and give it a watch. I mean, its production values are really good for a fan-made film. I mean, it's not what you'd expect from a blockbuster, obviously, but yeah, really very lovingly done, and I'd like to see them do more stuff. So do watch that. So to talk about a series now, so Discovery Season 4, so Discovery obviously owned by CBS All Access. Season 4 has been picked up, which is very, very exciting. We're hoping that they're in production right now, which is brilliant. We're hoping that it'll drop the back end of this year, 2021, which would be in line with how Season 3 did. Season 3 obviously dropped in October 2020. But I'll be honest, I mean, this is what the rumour mill is saying at the moment is, it's, hey, with a bit of luck this year, I can't see it being this year. It's taken them more than a year to produce the series so far, as they've gone along. So, I can't see it, to be honest, especially under the current conditions with the pandemic. That is going to slow things down and make things more difficult. But it's coming. It's on its way. Discovery Season 4. Other series that have been picked up. You've got Picard, which is also CBS All Access. Season 2 has been confirmed. Shooting should just have begun. I've not heard anything formally about shooting start, but the last I heard, which was around mid-January, was that they were hoping to start at the beginning of February. I've not heard anything since, so I'm hoping that that's because they're busy shooting. That would be very, very nice. I think, again, we'll be lucky to see that this year. I'm not expecting us to be honest. I think that'll be a 2022 show, but we shall see on that. I can give you one bit of information on it. So this is a bit of breaking news. So bear in mind that I should have said this right at the beginning. This show may contain spoilers because it's going to contain news as it breaks. So if you don't want to hear any spoilers for Picard, put your fingers in your ears and go la 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 now, and I'll wave when you can stop. So the news is that we'll be getting a character from the Next Generation adding... It's not insider news, no, because I'm not an insider. Sadly, I wish I was. But no, we're getting Guinan. Whoopi Goldberg will be reprising her role, probably just for one episode. I would have thought. Certainly, I don't think I'd want to see her for more than one episode personally, but that'd be nice. I mean, that'd be a nice touch. But yeah, Whoopi Goldberg as Guinan. There we are. I'll wave now, so you know that you can start listening again if you're avoiding your spoilers. So on with other existing ones that are being picked up. So Lower Decks, again, CBS All Access, who own Lower Decks. Season 2 is confirmed. Now that's not really big news because when CBS All Access picked up Lower Decks, they picked up 2 seasons in one go. So we always knew we were going to get... I'm sort of in the know because I read stuff. that's about it. But yeah, so we are... Well, we knew we were getting a season 2 of Lower Decks. I know that they are aiming for a 2021 release. And it's one of the benefits during the pandemic is you can have people sort of doing their voiceover recordings separately from each other. So it's much easier to shoot an animation because people can work from home as well animating. If they've got the right equipment, so it's animation is kind of a good way of dealing with the pandemic. So hopefully that won't get delayed, and we will see season 2 of Lower Decks this year. It's spoiler alert time again. So again, if you don't want any spoilers for Lower Decks, fingers in the ears, la 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 la. Here we go. Characters who are returning. You have Jonathan Frakes will be coming back for season 2 of Lower Decks, but Marina Sirtis will not. Now, the official line on this is that that's because the stories just won't be going that way. And I'm going to... So this is pure speculation on my part. I'm going to theorise that we're going to get Tom Riker rather than Will Riker. I think Lower Decks have been very good at picking out obscure bits of Trek history and making them into a bit of a thing. So the fact that Marina Sirtis isn't coming back, I mean, maybe she just turned it down. Who knows? But that's my personal theory on this, is that it's going to be Tom Riker, not Will Riker. But that's not come from anywhere other than in my brain. So there we go. So that's it for the spoilers on Lower Deck. So I'll wave again. You can start listening now if you want. Okay. So we've also got, in addition to all these other shows coming out, we have 3 brand new shows coming as well. This is so exciting. You have you have 2 Discovery spin-offs coming, which I'm very excited about, and especially because they go such different directions as well. On the one hand, you've got the Section 31 spin-off, So this is going to be starring Michelle Yeoh. Of course, as a spin-off from Discovery. I know the pandemic has delayed plans for shooting that, and they've just been very tight-lipped about a release date. As it stands at this moment, I don't actually have any more information than that. But it has been confirmed it is going to happen. So, yeah, I'll be updating you on the show as I hear more. But the other new show that's a spin-off from Discovery that I'm really excited about as well is going to be the very, very popular. So when Christopher Pike came onto Discovery, a hugely popular character, very popular with the fans. So he's getting his own spin-off. This is going to be called Strange New Worlds, and will be charting the events of the Enterprise pre-Captain Kirk. So I mentioned the fan film First Frontier earlier under Captain April. So this is between Captain April and Captain Kirk. Obviously this is going to be set after The Cage, because The Cage was referenced during Discovery, and I've got to believe it's following on from that. It's not going to predate it, with the Telosians, of course. But yes, it was. I really liked it, and I thought it was a really nice sort of homage to it, to the original Enterprise. Yes, I was very, very fond of it as well. Yeah. Now this one, so where Section 31, I think we can expect to be quite dark and deep and lots of intrigue and mystery and lots of, is it morally ambiguous stuff. Strange New Worlds, on the other hand, is going to a much more upbeat, optimistic, episodic storytelling. I'm hoping that we're going to get series arcs as well, because as an audience, I think we have become much more sophisticated in our taste. I think if they just purely go to episodic, people will get bored with it, and they'll find it's too shallow, basically. But that's what they're saying. That's how they're promoting it. It's going to be much more episodic, like the original series. But we will see on that. Now the next, the final show that's being planned is a brand new show. So this is not a spin-off. Well, it's a spin-off of Star Trek, obviously. But this one I'm really... I'm excited for all of them. You can probably tell. But I'm particularly excited by this. So where Lower Decks was, albeit animation, it was aimed at a very mature audience, which I'm all for. This is going to be a show. It's being developed by CBS, but also Nickelodeon. It's going to be a show aimed at kids, at the younger audiences. It's going to be an animated show called Prodigy. Now, this is going to follow a group of lawless teens who discover a derelict Starfleet ship and use it to search for adventure, meaning, and salvation. Oh, doesn't that sound really heartwarming and brilliant? Right there. It's being developed by Dan and Kevin Hageman, who are, you might be, if you've got kids and you watch these things, Ed, you might be more familiar than me with these things. But episodes Troll Hunters and Lego Ninjago they've developed. So they've got, obviously, a good pedigree when it comes to developing kids shows there. It's planned again for 2021 for this year. So again, same as Lower Decks, animated series are much easier to create during these difficult times. And I'm going to give a spoiler on this. So again, fingers in ears, la la la, till I wave and say it's all over. If you don't want to hear spoilers for Prodigy. Put your fingers in your ears now, because I have heard, I have it on very good authority, that we'll be having a very special guest star on Prodigy in the form of Kate Mulgrew, of course, Captain Janeway on Voyager. So that's going to be very exciting to see how they interact with her. So I'll do the little wave, meaning the spoilers over. But that's going to be very, very exciting. And I've got to say, so I mean, there's two ways of looking at this. We can take sort of the pessimistic view. Oh, they're just milking it. Which, of course, they are. I mean, these production companies are in the business to make money. If a show's popular and it's making money, they're going to capitalise on that. But on the plus side, on the optimistic side, this means more and more Trek for us, for the fans. And we're getting such a wide range of Trek as well. And I think the two new shows, sort of Section 31 and Strange New Worlds, are demonstrating this quite nicely. That they're aiming it. They're hearing what audiences are saying. A lot of people complained about Discovery, that it was too dark and it was too adult and it was it wasn't real Trek. I mean, I personally get a little bit irritated when people say it's not real Trek. It's called Star Trek Discovery, so of course it's real Trek. Yes, I mean, there is absolutely so much at the moment. But they heard when people said, it's too dark for me. So they said, well, okay, here is Strange New Worlds. So it's good that they're listening, and it's good that there will be something for everyone. Even the humour side from Lower Decks, which is, I mean, again, really worth watching. And now with Prodigy, they're going for a show for the younger audiences as well. I think it speaks to the value, the importance, and the impact of Star Trek on our culture as a whole, that we have so much out there. It does. You're absolutely right. There's a whole thing, about vulnerability. But yes, which Brené Brown does a fantastic TED talk about vulnerability and putting your soul out there on display for people to judge, to assess. Very, very meaningful TED talk there, which is nothing to do with Star Trek whatsoever. So there we go. That's the end of the news. And I've been talking now for an hour, which is what I planned for this show to be. So that's timed really well for guesswork. Yes, absolutely. And more so, I'm going to say again, First Frontier, the fan-made film, go out and check it out, because I mean, it's one thing for big budget production companies to take risks. I mean, they're not really taking much of a risk. Their risk is that they make less profit than what they'd hoped. But for a fan to go out and make something like this, where that it's going to get pulled apart and hammered, I think these people need all the support possible. So do check out First Frontier. I mean, it's worth it. It really is worth it, and I think you'll enjoy it. So there we are. We have come to the end of this show. I hope you've enjoyed it. I hope it's been interesting, and I hope you've picked up some things that you wouldn't have otherwise picked up. Do join me next week, when I'll be doing some more of the same. There'll be more updates as and when I get them, and hopefully so today, in terms of news, I've done kind of a scanned, here's the general news, because it's the first one, but hopefully in future episodes I'll be able to do much more of a deep dive on specific things that are happening, and we can get sort of news as it's breaking. That's my hope with that. I'm going to be talking next week as well about what our favourite episodes are. So if you can have a think between now and next week about which is your all-time favourite episode across all of Star Trek, and I'll include the movies if you prefer one particular movie over any particular episode, then yeah, include the movies. But what is your favourite? I definitely want to hear that, because that's what we're going to be talking about. I'll be sharing my... Well, doesn't everyone have a favourite child? Okay. Okay. Whichever isn't shouting at you, absolutely. But yes. I mean, do you know what? Actually, you've raised a very important and serious point there. And I'm going to say that having a favourite episode doesn't mean to say that you don't love the rest. I mean, I've got a favourite series among Star Trek, and I'm not going to share it on this episode. People who know me know which it is anyway. But I'm not going to share it just for now. But I do have my own particular favourite series. But it doesn't mean to say that I don't love all of them, which I do. I'm even going to say Star Trek 5 gets some love from me. It might be to watch over and over again, but I think you can overdo that even with your favourite ones. But that's maybe a topic for next week. But you'll get to hear which is my favourite episode, and that is the episode that I'm planning to review. Unless, now feel free to hit me up if you want me to review a particular episode yourselves. Then let me know. How can you let me know? Gosh. Well, you can message me through my Twitch, I believe. Can you message me through my Twitch? I'm wondering now. I've got Facebook and Twitter links in my Twitch below, so you can certainly message me through those, or just come along next week and put stuff in the chat. But I do want to hear what your favourite episodes are and why. You've got to show you're working on this. No, I'm joking. If you don't want to, you don't have to. But I would be interested to hear why it's your favourite. Absolutely. Like I say, I'll be talking about any news that's out there as well. And as well as Star Trek Sundays, every second Wednesday, so this is not going to be the Wednesday coming, this is the Wednesday after now, you can join myself, Ed, Usher, also Amy and Matt, who are, we're avid Trekkies amongst us, except for Usher, who's, just enthusiastic about life, and it's amazing. So we play Star Trek Adventures, the role-playing game, which is a lot of fun. Absolutely. Do come along and watch that on this stream. And Thursday nights at 9:30 GMT, I stream Star Trek Bridge Crew, where you can quite often see the same people. But we have a lot of fun finding new and interesting ways to get blown up and die. Yes, Elin Ryle, I should have mentioned this earlier, is Ed's character in Star Trek Adventures. He's the Trill Commander and Con. Not con artist, just, con. So there we go. I hope you have enjoyed all of this. Oh, do you know what? I've just realised. So yesterday I made some notes, and I do, before we go, I'm going to share some more breaking news. And again, this is going to be a bit spoilery. So if you don't want spoilers, now's probably a good time to say goodbye. And those people who don't want spoilers, I will see you next week, hopefully. But if you're still with us, I have 2 pieces of information. One is that there is a rumour going round that there might be a new Deep Space Nine series coming. Avery Brooks certainly is publicly expressed an interest in revisiting the character of Ben Sisko. So it's quite an interesting theory, and I know I'm a little bit squee over that. So, but bear in mind, this is just rumour mill at the moment, and I'm going to be seeing if I can dig out some information about that. Yeah, absolutely. Well, that Kim Kardashian and what have you, they're very very attractive ladies. The other bit of breaking news that I have heard. Oh, hello, Real Don Suave. Nice of you to join us. We are just coming to the end of the stream. Unfortunately, you've missed most of it. But I'm just giving some breaking rumours about Trek as we just before we go. But do go back on the stream and watch the whole of it. I'm sure you'll be intrigued by what you see, but it's nice for you to join us, definitely. So the last bit of news, I will whisper it again, just for Kat. There may be a cameo. I'm personally thinking, I mean, we haven't heard what, but there may be a cameo from Scott Bakula coming. They haven't said which series, and the obvious ones, some people have said Picard because, oh, look at the end of Enterprise with the Next Generation characters, but that's absolute nonsense from my particular perspective. But DS9 season 5, it's just absolutely phenomenal. It just got better and better as it came towards the end. But if this is true about Scott Bakula making a cameo, I think the most likely is going to be Strange New Worlds. Possibly Section 31 as well, because it's the right time frame. He would be Admiral by this point. Yeah, Sam Beckett. Oh boy. Yeah, that'd be quite interesting. Yeah, you find out he was Picard all along. Yeah. But no, I'd be quite. But the other half of this rumor is that following his cameo, and this would depend on how well it was picked up, he might have the option for a series himself. That would be quite a thing. Would this be Admiral? Captain? Hard to know where this is going. But there we go. Those are two bits of breaking. It's not breaking news, it's breaking rumours. But those are rumours hot off the press. And you can absolutely bet I will be following those. They are on the opposite side of my piece of paper that I've got my notes for today on. That's why I nearly forgot. But there we are. So thank you ever so much for joining me. Again, do please. Strange New Worlds, quite right too. I'm excited about all of them. I really, really am. They're all going to be absolutely amazing. It could definitely that would be the perfect place for him, I think. I'm in the know of rumours. I don't want you to take this away and say, oh, we've definitely heard it's going to happen. These are rumours. I really want to emphasise that. But there we go. So do come and join me next week. Bring any rumours that you hear yourself. That'd be absolutely cool. I'm always keen to hear more. In the meantime, as I say, do go and and watch my other streams, Star Trek Bridge Crew every Thursday night, and Star Trek Adventures role-playing game every second Wednesday, and they're still up there, so you can catch up on the stream or visit YouTube and watch us there. So I'm afraid I'm going to have to do my sort of welcome screen because I haven't got a bye-bye screen as yet in for Star Trek Sundays, because this is a bit new. So in the meantime, though, I will say to you all, have a very happy Valentine's Day and keep on trekking.